Welcome to The Fault. We have two brothers breaking down their business mistakes.
Hello everyone, Jay here, and today in the Vault, I'll be talking about two small mistakes, and I end with a question for Jared, to which I think he gives a really thought-provoking response.
And I'm Jared, and I'll be talking about how frustrating customers can be and how I let frustration seep into my communication with them. What kept putting it off was I couldn't figure out what I wanted to watch while I was...
I need to breathe and refocus a little bit here because this is ridiculous. So
it was very clear in my email. Well, to me at least.
You thought I'll say it?
Yeah, very clear. I thought it was, and he thought that was.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to an episode of The Fault. Two brothers breaking down their business mistakes. This is our last show or episode of the year. Did you realize that, Jared? Yeah, you did. You at least doing this in the future. So actually, if you can, yes, you guys are in the future. By the time you'll be in the future. So if you could put in the comments down below what happens in the future, that would really help us out until we get there. I'm here with my brother as always. I'm Jay. Let me introduce. I forgot how to do this. I'm Jay. I operate Bradford Express Cabinets. I'm here with my brother as always, Jared, who operates and owns Worldwide English Services. Jared, let me move my text so I can see your lovely face. There you are. A little bit blurry for me. Hi there. Is that the same shirt you were wearing last week? Is it?
I don't remember. I have a pretty tight rotation, so it's possible, but
Well, I should not talk at all. I just saw that and thought of it because I wear the exact same thing every time. I have two of these, just so everyone knows, and I always... they're not always fully clean. But anyway, we're off to a great start today. Jared, last episode, you were talking about because of the holiday time and everybody being a little bit busy. And you also, there were just two things you said. It was enjoying your apartment that you're in, and that you, most people are going to be gone until the later part of January. So what have you been up to? We just had Christmas. We're about to have New Year. It's the latter half of December. What have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. I binged one show. That was an evening because it was like 6 episodes. Didn't like it. I've been reading. I've been studying Arabic quite a bit, which has been good.
Nice.
Yes, I feel like I'm starting to get my feet under me a little bit, which is cool. When I'm talking with my teacher, I can tell her pretty in-depth stories, though understanding the stories that come back from her is a little bit more challenging. It's much more challenging.
Because of pronunciation or because of vocabulary?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's tricky, but it's getting there for sure, and
Nice.
that is exciting, and I'm starting to also, well, two things are starting to happen, which since from learning Spanish. Number one is I'm starting to make connections, so like I learn a new word over here, and it's like, oh, okay, I learned the noun from that word way over here. It's all right, that helps. And so as soon as you hit that point, you get a little bit of critical mass, and you can, it's easier to remember things. The web of connections in your head is a little bit denser. And the second thing is, as I'm just walking around Saudi Arabia, I see a bottle of water or a storefront or listening to a conversation, and I'm starting to pick out like, oh, that word I know, or oh, I got that, cool. So that's pretty exciting too. That's always a fun stage when it's becoming less theoretical and more practical. So there's that. I'm reading a book on the history of the Balkans, which is very dense but interesting. I have watched pretty much all there is to watch from my YouTube creators that I enjoy following. I think number one, I have much more time, so I've already watched everything. And number two, a lot of it is political. So after the elections, they're all kind of burnt out, I think. And so just the content is a little, there's less content coming out, and it's less like, oh, I want to watch this. I need to know what's going on. It's all just more like, yeah, kind of more of the same. All right. So, okay.
Oh boy.
All right. So,
Okay.
but yeah,
You
that's
started
been it's
the
been a
the
good.
well is running a little dry with YouTube then.
It is. It is. I was
Should
today. I was gonna go cook, and the reason I kept putting it off was I couldn't figure out what I wanted to watch while I was.
That's such a modern thing. That's funny.
It is. Yep.
It's fair.
How about you?
So I've done that with the songs before. No, real quick. Can you introduce yourself and your business with like a one line, whatever, in Arabic yet?
Hold on. Let's see. I just learned the word for the owner today, but Hasib, Sahib. Okay, so I could say Anna Sahib, or no, I could say عندي شركة. I have a company, Worldwide English Services, because you wouldn't translate that. And what do we do? ندرس إنجليزي في إنترنت. So we teach English online. We'll stick with that.
There we go. It's fun. It's like working out when you start working out and when we start working out and you get that those first connections, those first
Mhm.
it's exciting. You see the little muscle pop out. You see, oh, there's a little more definition. The fat goes away a little bit. So you're kind of in that stage. So it's rewarding because that's obviously a lot of work and a lot of mental stuff. So very nice. Good for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Cool.
nice. Okay.
Over here.
Has
How
been
about you?
quiet. Over it's been quiet. I haven't I succumbed a little bit to the holiday spirit that I talked about I think 2 episodes ago, and so I have not been as productive. I've taken advantage of the plethora, the wide availability of excuses in this holiday season. So I haven't been operating as much as I should be, and that has me annoyed and kind of anxious. And uh this morning I was driving here and I got annoyed at the windshield wipers were a little too fast and rhythmic, and I went, "Eh." I won't say what I said. I turned them off, and I just drove with some little rain on the thing. I thought I need to breathe and like refocus a little bit here because this is ridiculous. So I was like, okay, I got to calm down. Um, but yeah, so and also I'm looking at the money. Money's looking a little tight there. Money's looking a little tight. So I'm going to use this to slingshot into you know, a good year here. Um, what did I want to say? So yeah, I don't have much just a bunch of family stuff. Just doing whatever. Actually, going today this afternoon to do um, um our Christmas, our family, one side of the family's uh party, whatever. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, apartment's coming along. Business is fine. It's just not. I'm just not doing enough. I'm gonna get right down to it. Okay, and I'm gonna start because I'd like to talk about my things. I just have a few. I have two small ones, and I have a question that's at the root of which is at a problem that I'm having. So, one is a client that remember the client. I've said this a number of times. There's a client that hasn't paid me their full balance. I've been going after
Oh,
them a little
Bill.
bit for that. Yeah, and so this is one. I don't think I said this before. Uh, is I should have the client paid me a week or two ago for half of their balance, and I just didn't say anything. And I should have, thinking back on, I was thinking about that this week as I think about how I'm gonna say the next text and say, hey, what about the other half? I should have encouraged the behavior I wanted to see. And so I should have said, thank you for doing that. And then so that not every time I'm reaching out to him, am, am I talking about, hey, where's my money? Where's my money? No, I don't say it like that, obviously, so that's a small one. I should encourage that behavior by thanking him for doing for whatever. And then, so it's encouraging that behavior. That's one small one. Second one is giving kind of casual discounts. I was watching a YouTube video from Alex Hermosi, and he was talking about he's either give something for free, or it's either free or full price. I think basically is what he was saying.
Mm.
And in the past, I don't do this often, but I have a profit margin, and I have a slightly different profit margin for retail versus contractors and other wholesale. And and in the past, I did a good job with this with one client where they straight up said, is there any room on this? And I just said no, because I said I already give my prices are great, so I shouldn't be budging on them anyway. But there have been a few times where I have budged on them, and it must put it in people's minds that it's like, oh, so these prices are just arbitrary, and that's like kind of the danger of it. And to a certain, in a weird way, whatever they kind of are, but there is a reason why there's a reason why they're that price, and it's a good price, it's a fair price, and so I think I need to be better about that. Like I think sometimes, and I've done this actually with that same client that asked me that. I said no, but then he needed a few extra things, and I didn't charge him as much for those extra things, and then we needed one more extra thing, and I gave it to him for free. And so I think that is okay because everything kind of went well, and that's okay. That's a nice way to end it, is to giving something for free and whatever. It's like a nice dessert or extra. Um, but at the beginning, I don't think it's a good way to set that precedent. So that's number two. So the third, I just have a question. I'm just curious if you have this at all, but why do you think that is, I'm going to say in general, although I feel this, it is embarrassing. Why do you think it's embarrassing to start to say something or to say something small in one area? We're talking about marketing, basically. So, for example, I have a sign out front and I haven't changed the signage at all. I've only changed it one time when I updated it. And I get, that's the feeling that I get from going out there and changing it and saying something else is embarrassment. Or the idea of the idea of posting something on social media that isn't like a full, here I am, whatever, if it's just like a small thing, or if it's a one post up in this area or one thing, why do I feel embarrassed to do that? Like that's the strongest, I feel that's the strongest emotion. Does that ring? We're very different in this way, so I'm interested to hear your experience, but like, do you ever feel embarrassed by that, or do you feel something different, or why? What's at the root of that? And
So, a couple questions to clarify. One question is, could you walk me through, if you don't mind, could you walk me through perhaps the worst case scenario, like what you're embarrassed of happening?
Okay, great question. Okay, so because I was thinking about one of my mistakes, I've been thinking about this sign that's been bothering me. I was like, I got to change the sign. But then I was like, if I say that, why don't I just go out and there and change the sign? Like, what's preventing me from ending this podcast and going out there and changing the sign? I was like, I'm embarrassed to change the sign. I was like, so that's the real thing. Why am I embarrassed to change the stupid sign? Worst case scenario is people think that with the sign, what could it be? That it's the wrong message, or that it is stupid to have that when the front of the building doesn't look very nice, or when if people look in here and it's not nice in here because this is not a storefront, this is just like an extended office area, and there's no storefront. I think it's trying to do some while other things look bad. I'm worried that I guess people would judge me that I haven't done more.
Okay.
Like they're like, this thing is okay. Why isn't the rest of it good?
Mhm. It sounds like you're talking about kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, that type of thing. Is that
Yeah,
fair to say?
yeah.
Uh-huh. And so is the embarrassment the lipstick or the pig?
The pig.
Uh-huh. Okay. And so you're like, if it's a pig, we're going to go whole hog. We're going to go all in on the pig.
Right.
There's going to be no lipstick on this bad boy.
At least I can be consistent and be like, I haven't done it. I haven't done it at all, and
Okay.
that's fine because everything starts as a pig. But if I start to put the lipstick on and then I stop for a while, or if I start to put the lipstick on, I put it in the wrong place or it's the wrong shade, and
Mm-hmm.
it then that's worse than just having a pig.
Got it. I think, so are you asking me, so it sounds like we figured out why that is. Did we answer your question, or do you have, like, you want to go into it more?
Let me think.
Where would you like to take it?
I guess what's the because it is a pig, and a first step would be lipstick on a pig, I guess. Is the
Mhm.
first is it just to put the lipstick on, then put the nice pants on, then put the shirt on, and then like is it to just go through it and suck it up until we get to critical mass of it not being a pig? Or is it to change my perception of it and it's not a pig, it's like a newborn. This is getting weird, but like I'm thinking of my nephew. Like he's cute in and of himself. It's not a pig. Maybe it's you know what I mean. Maybe it's not a pig, and it doesn't have to be whatever. But it's kind of a pig outside, and a pig on I because I haven't done enough.
So I think it's my advice, because I think that's what you're asking about is the both sides of that. So you mentioned should you change your perspective or should you change the pig? And I think it's both. On the perspective side, I think it's important to remember kind of what we're doing here, and it's exactly this: of you can't. Uh, I've noticed for myself actually that it has changed my perspective a little bit. Doing this podcast, it changed my perspective a little bit in terms of mistakes. When I make a mistake, there's almost a little bit of a feeling of relief now. It's like, oh, cool, I got one for the show. And I really like that. I really like that attitude, which is pretty much exactly why we wanted to do this. So the first thing is just like go do it because you'll never know if if the lipstick is wrong until it's on the pig, and then you can be like, oh, actually, yeah, no, that I don't like that. I'm going to change it. The second part of the personal perspective is empathy for yourself, I think, which is also what we're doing here. If you knew better, you would do better. So if you fast forward to 2 weeks from now and you find out that was really the wrong message you put up on the sign there, the only way to know that is to make the mistake. So at that point, if you're looking back at yourself now and thinking, "Oh, that idiot, I can't believe I put that message on the sign." Well, if you knew better right now, you would do better right now. You don't know better, and that's okay. And so that perspective, I think, like those two things together of just doing it, just giving it a try, and then also having the perspective that afterwards, if you find out even that it was embarrassing, even if people do drive by it and they're like, I can't believe, did you see what that sign said over there? It's like, well, okay, well, you didn't know any better or you would have done better. So I think that's perfectly okay. That's how we grow and learn. On the health side, um, I have noticed with Wes, as I've gone through lots of different iterations in pretty much every single area of the business, that there's always a perspective. You can always feel frustrated or regretful about something. Like, I figured out a better way to do this. Why wasn't I doing this 2 years ago? Everything would be so much better now if I'd been doing this 2 years ago. You can always do that. And you can always find areas to grow. So I think it's really just about thinking of it. I guess it's always just a process. It's never as bad as it was. It's never as good as it will be, as long as you keep working. And so it's not so much that it's even the lipstick on a pig, because you're never going to get to like, here's my ready-made pig. I'm now finished. That never happens. It's always going to be like, oh, okay, actually, I want to tweak the lipstick a little bit over here, or I want to have a second earring on the pig. And yes, this is absolutely a bit of a Frankenstein of a metaphor we're getting to at this point.
It works for me. I'm
Uh,
understanding it. Yeah.
but but yeah, so I think all of those things together, lowering the stakes, and then just like yes, put it up on the sign. Maybe set a notification for yourself every 2 weeks. Monday morning, your phone goes off. It's like, hey, figure out a new sign, and you spend 15 minutes on that Monday, and then you get on with the rest of your life. Something like that, maybe.
It's very helpful. I'm gonna write this down, or if we could pause the podcast, I'd just write it down right now. That's a good way to do it.
Recording this.
Yeah. No, it's not that. It's more like my brain. Not well. I guess it could happen again if I listen to it. But anyway, yes, yeah. That's very helpful, and you answered my question. Thank you.
Cool. Absolutely. Can I
Yeah.
talk now? Can you do my problem?
Well, you have been talking. Well, you have been talking about your thing, and I've enjoyed it. I'm going to try not to keep processing what you said. I'm going to try to pay attention to what you're saying now. Whatever. Go ahead.
I appreciate
Share it.
All right, go for it. Okay, over to me. So yes. All right. So my mistake has also has to do with lowering expectations actually, and the freedom that brings with it. So a couple months ago, I had a client ask me to do a project that I've never done before, in-person training. I don't know if we've talked about this at all. I think we've mentioned it.
Maybe
Right.
as you did. I think we mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah. So one client asked me to do this, and they basically said they kind of gave me carte blanche. They were like, "Yes, well, we can make this. If you do ABC, we can do 1, 2, 3 for you, and it'll be no problem. Just tell me if you can do this." And then I went off and I found another client because it wasn't enough hours for the project, just one client. So I wanted to have two to match them, and that I knew that then it would be worth it. So I found another client, and they were also like they gave me the green light. So I talked with the teacher, I talked with our developers, I came up with a plan, I did some digging on the logistics, I made sure everything was good, and I went back to the client and I said, "All right, here you go. I have completed the assignment, everything is ready to go." And what I heard back was, first of all, uh, they couldn't do what they said they would do. And then the second thing was that they needed time because then they were going to find some other offers. They were going to talk to some other companies and do due diligence, which is not what we talked about at all. So I felt very frustrated because I had been now I have a teacher who I've been talking to about this, and they're like, "Okay, what's the deal? Are we gonna make this happen?" And because they put things in a very categorical way, they said, "We can do this." I had two clients who were like, "Cool, yes, go ahead." And I had in my head a schedule. I was going to do this for 2 months, January and February. That locks us in right before Ramadan, which Ramadan in Saudi Arabia, it's very difficult to do training because everybody's hungry and thirsty throughout the day. And so like people don't do as much business. Everything is really topsy-turvy. And last year we really had issues with that, with one of these companies actually. So I had in my head, great, I'm like a month and a half ahead of time, ahead of these 2 months. Both of them gave me this preliminary okay. I have everything in place. I need to just get the green light, final green light from both of them, and then we'll make it happen. And both of them delayed. I still have not gotten a final answer from either one of them, and the plan was to start in January. So it's been literally like a month and a half of this. So what happened was I started to push both of them because in my head, we're getting close to this point where like I have this schedule, like, well, we need to get this started. You asked me to do this. I have this, I have all the pieces together ready for you. And if you keep delaying something that you told me you need, I won't be able to do a good job for you. And so that became kind of all encompassing in my head. That schedule was locked in my head. And as we got later and later and later, and week after week went by with no answer, or I'll tell you next week, or I have to have a meeting, or just not answering phone calls, which is one of them, the one that asked me to do it. They just stopped answering the phone after a while. I was pushing them, so I was sending messages and emails and calling them every couple days. You need to go, guys. And both of them got a little bit frustrated with me. So what I think happened, the lesson I want to learn from that is, number one, I need to understand that it's not the end of the world. Like, clients are not going to give me the final answer. Even when they say we're going to do this, unless it's on paper and the money's in my bank account, they're like, oh well, it's just kind of part of doing business.
Yes.
And the second thing is I can always change the plan. So what I settled into and what I told the second client who I have a closer relationship, a better relationship with, when he said that they were going to have yet another meeting or it's going to be next week or whatever, I said, all right, we can't do it in January, but as soon as you know me, as soon as we have an answer, I'll figure out a plan for you and we'll lock it in then. And that, I think, reduces all the pressure for everybody. And it makes me less annoying. So when I basically have that, uh, here, I've developed everything. Here it is for you. Uh, I need to know by this date in order to make it happen. If you don't make it by that date, we'll figure something else out. And I'll call you up like next week. And if you don't get back to me, I understand you actually don't need this. That, I think, is much more helpful in building a strong, a more productive relationship.
Do you think that that reduces the likelihood? The fear is that more relaxed approach reduces the likelihood that they'll say yes without the pressure. Is that
There definitely is that, for sure. I think there are ways around that. All right, so I'll say something for and against what you're saying. Reason why I agree with it and why I disagree with it. The reason why I agree with it. Hold on, I just completely lost my train of thought. Say that again. What did you just say?
yeah, all good, all good. And I'm not necessarily saying that it would, but sometimes we worry. Well, a couple of things. I'll just kind of react to what you were saying in general while you're thinking. One is you had the expectations. You took their expectations at face value, the client's expectations at face value. And then you planned your decisions, your timetable, your actions, all of that based on, and you set up your own expectations based on that. And then when their part fell apart, as in they weren't starting to keep the deal, their end of the deal, you maintained your expectations because you had the schedule with Ramadan and January, you had the teacher set up, and then you were basing it based off of that. And then that, whatever. And then you had to be like, I'm going to scrap both, lower the bar and say, hey, we're not going to make myself not as annoying and whatever. I guess that's what my question is. I think that's the worry, at least that I'm feeling when I hear that situation, is that if I'm not on top of them, if I'm not following what they said, and you keep going, like I would keep going back to that. You said this, I'm doing exactly what you're asking from me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to, if you're not on them, is that going to reduce the chances that they're going to say yes? Or do you take more, and this is where I just don't know the answer, and maybe it's impossible to know the answer exactly, just from experience and likelihoods, but is it that that was never, it's not going to happen anyway if you continue in that basing your decisions on your expectations that were based on their expectations that had now fallen apart? And so is it like, it doesn't really matter, just go with this new way that you just described, more relaxed and saying, hey, when you're ready, I'm ready. You know, I do my job. So whatever yeah, that's my,
Yeah. So yes. So the where I agree with you is that. Okay. So the problem with what I liked about your framing is that basically you said that I shifted from their schedule to my schedule. And I think it's a really good way of thinking about it, of framing it. So the moment I did that, it became them doing something for me rather than me doing something for them. And I think that's where
yeah.
I need to change it. And so when I was putting the pressure on them, it is okay to say something like, "Hey, if you don't tell me by Tuesday, we can't do this, or we'll have to postpone." Then that's fine. So putting pressure on that way, but the way I was doing it was I was letting frustration infuse my communication.
Yeah.
It was very much, you guys asked me to do this. I went and did all the work for this. You said if I gave you this, we could go through with it. I gave you this, and you aren't even getting back to me having the dignity of saying no or yes or whatever. And that's absolutely true. All of that is, I think, absolutely true. It's unprofessional. It's not a good way of doing business. On our end, it's like, well, okay, who cares? They're not going to be professional. Like, that's their problem. What are we going to do? Die on the hill of high standards and morals? Like,
Yeah. Still get no
well,
money. Yeah. I mean,
right,
you get
exactly.
project.
And plus frustration on top of it,
Yeah.
and a frustration of calling them and being ignored, and that's like, it was really frustrating. So that is true. The other side, and this is, so what I'm not saying is like, you send them one message and then it's like, whatever, huh? I'll see when I see. it's okay to stay in touch just without that frustration, especially what I worry about following through. We had a situation where they did give me an answer. They said no, and they didn't say why. So I called and asked why. And he said, well, it's just crazy expensive. And so it turned out he read the total. I gave all the details for the project, and I said, the total is this. And he read that as the total, or I said it was like the total for the project. It was very clear in my email. Well, to me at least.
You thought
I'll
of,
say it was
yeah.
very clear. I thought it was. And he thought that was the total per student, and it was like 30 students. So he thought the price was like 30 times what it was. There was definitely no indication that it was per student.
Wow.
And so if I just let that go, then I would have figured out that it was a complete miscommunication, and our prices are not that high. They're very fair. So it's important to stay in touch, but I think it's having the flexibility in mind of whenever the pen hits the paper, then I'll finalize the plan. And it's okay if we go into Ramadan and it sucks for them because they should have done it earlier and I gave them every chance to do it earlier. Well, then I'll do my best, but that's not.
Yeah.
I did my best. That's it.
Yeah. Let me ask you another, just one more part of that. When you said that you had a teacher ready and the teacher was asking you, does it make you, because sometimes we take the energy that the client gives us and that like they're saying, we're ready, we're doing this, ask for this, ABC. You're like, oh, let me embody that energy and let me go to my teacher and start doing ABC. And I pass that on, those expectations in a way to them. Does this experience make you possibly change the way that you'll kind of go to the next step, or once you get word from the whatever, does that change the way that you interact with your teachers, for example, or any of your employees?
Yes and no. Yes, actually, it would perhaps will change the way I interact with clients because
That's what we probably
care
talk
about
about
them.
that more. Yeah, we have about that more.
But no. I mean, even at the beginning, like I can say when they say like, here we have this for you. Can you do it? I'll say, yeah. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk with my teachers and get them involved. So I need to make sure that you guys are really serious about that. In that case,
Okay.
I'll go through with it. No worries. So I think setting expectations is helpful at the beginning. Perhaps not even in those exact words, but setting expectations is helpful. With that said, it doesn't always work. With this same client, last Ramadan, why it was such an issue, I told them before Ramadan, I said, it's often an issue. Are you sure you want to schedule classes during Ramadan? Yeah, no problem. Absolutely. I said, okay, if anything needs to happen, just tell me in advance, please. Because I don't want to make it, I will look bad if I have to figure out everything with my teachers. I'll look bad to my teachers. And like a week into Ramadan, they came back and said, we want to reschedule everything to the evenings, like starting tomorrow. And I said, okay, all right, I'll try to figure this out, talk with my teachers. And so I had the teachers make an exception. They rescheduled, they moved their schedules around so they could do evening lessons just for like the 4 weeks. And I told him, all right, now I'm doing this, but it's making me look really unprofessional to the teachers because it's just happening all at once. It makes it look like I don't know what's going on. And you have to remember, they're not my employees, they're contractors. So please, in the future, just give me advance notice. I need to know so that you don't make me look bad to my teachers. Like 3 days later, he said, we changed our mind. We want to cancel like tomorrow. And so in our contract, that is, they can do that. So I tried to convince him not to. I told him again, exactly what I told you. I'm going to look really bad because I just told my teachers that I asked them to make an exception. I asked them to change everything around. And now I'm going to be going back to them and having them, and I have to tell them that this is canceled. So we're making me look really unprofessional, and I don't want to lose my teachers. I told him, you know how I deal with you. I deal the same way with everybody. I'm super professional. I try to make sure everybody gets what they need. And he was like, cool, thanks. We need to cancel. So will always be clients like that, but it's at least something that I can do on that side. For teachers, I would have to look back at the way I communicated with this teacher. I think I set the expectation well because I'm always very concerned about that. I'm very aware that projects fall through. I felt really bad in this case, and it added to my frustration because this is like the fourth or fifth project in a row that I've asked this specific teacher about and has fallen through before anything
Yeah.
happened. So
Yeah.
I've never promised the teacher anything. So I'm like, I haven't been unprofessional. I just feel bad on a personal level because I've gotten his hopes up like 5 times in a row and then just had to come back and say, yep, I told them we could do what they asked and they decide not to do it. I'm really sorry. So
Let's take this opportunity real quick. I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry, real quick. For the people that are listening, I'm dead serious about this. I'd really like, wherever you're listening right now, if you could comment or post anything. I'm just curious the way that we deal with expectations of clients. When clients come to you, this has happened to us specifically because we tend to do we tend to take them at face value, I think.
yeah,
That's the way, and it's almost like we need to have a stronger, uh, have our trajectory be a little bit stronger or something. I don't know let me just ask the thing. How do you deal with that? What's when you have a client and they set an expectation and you go, I can meet that expectation. You do, and then they back out, they change it, whatever it is. Anyone in business has had something like this happen. And I'm just curious if you could just leave it, anywhere you are listening, because that would be this very interesting. This is like the real
yeah.
stuff that actually happens in business. That is like, yeah, it's clients, it's expectations. That's it. That's all of business. It seems like it's all business, maybe just right now, but I'm
It's
just
one of
curious
the most
about that.
frustrating parts too.
Really is. It's like we think like if everybody just follow what they were saying. I think I mentioned something about this real quick. I have somebody because I want to get logos on shirts, and I think I talked about this before. Anyway, real quick, I messaged him in like June, and he gave me a quote: $10 for the front, $10 for the back, this whatever whatever. And it's taken me until now. I went like 4 months without writing him. I said I just need a little more time. I said, and then it went like 4 months, or whatever. And I'm gonna do it with him. I'm gonna take in the clothes soon, literally next week. But it's like because I was that customer to a certain extent, and he never let it get to him. He didn't pressure me. He just whatever. And I'm gonna go through with it. So I guess it does happen because people are just like we change our mind or whatever it is. But yeah, it's just tough setting expectations and planning your life accordingly. Any other final comments on that? Yeah, you got something.
Yeah, but just piggybacking on what you're saying. I mean, there have been many instances where I've been that kind of client, except I'm always really careful. Having been on this side so many times, if somebody contacts me and then I'm very open with them. Like this, get in touch with me in a month. Maybe we'll do it then. I'm not sure. Or if we have a meeting, I really like this. Can't do it right now. I'll keep it in mind. So really, like, if I say something to the client, they can count on that, or not to the client, to the service provider, whoever I'm working with. They can count on that. So I do try to be the change I want to see in the world. But it is unfortunately, I really don't mean like I'm making this. I'm ending this on a note that I feel like I'm making myself out to be the good guy or something like this, and I really don't mean to. But
No, I know
it's
what you mean.
something that I've tried
So
to I really tried to put into play
it does help that,
because of that reason.
like you just said,
Really frustrating.
it is, and we know what it's like beyond from this side, and
Yep.
that's the way it works. So I was conscious of that even throughout that whole process, even that back and forth is like people have done this to me, and I never said whatever it is, but yes, no, 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 absolutely, and we have to just do better and think about that. Okay, this has been long. I think this is a really good episode. We do actually have a sponsor. It's actually a fringe company. It's a car insurance company. It's called Leary Car Insurance. I'm just going to read my copy here. Leary Insurance. We put the con in consistency. If you stay consistent with your payments each year and never file a claim, we will consistently raise your rates, sometimes by as much as 15%. Search for Leary and a Leary agent near you today and make 2025 even more expensive starting today. So anyway, thank you very much. That we don't have a promo code or anything, but just get started with Lay Erie if you want to just have a really consistent experience as they raise your rates. Thank you to Leary Car Insurance for sponsoring today's episode.
Sounds like a really good deal.
Yes, it's
But
been
they
it's
really
been a
don't
month.
have those bumps.
No. Actually, they charge us.
Ah,
Yeah. It's a little bit more each year that we get to, because it's such a high-end brand that it's like we get the prestige of being able to say that they're a sponsor. So really, we actually do. I'll demo request you later for that.
okay.
Anyway,
Sounds good. Yeah, no question.
thank you for dropping the words of wisdom and the ideas and talking about our problems. This is a fun one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone. We'll see you next episode.